Imagine waking up in the morning, opening your eyes, and instead of seeing your bedroom ceiling, you see the golden reflection of the rising sun spreading over the Mediterranean, pouring directly through the panoramic tempered glass window that takes up the entire wall of your room. You rise slowly, your feet touching heated Italian marble floors, set to the exact temperature you programmed the night before. Beside you, a built-in jacuzzi with a view of the open sea. You walk out to the deck, and there it is. No crowded beach, no neighbors, no lines. Just you, the ocean, and a horizon that seems to belong to you alone. This is not a resort. This is not a five-star hotel. This is a super yacht. And today, we're going to pull back the curtain on a market that most people will never know. A market where the entry price is the cost of a mansion, but where the real players spend the equivalent of entire countries' GDPs. And I'm talking about prices that range from $2 million, which sounds absurd until you discover that's considered cheap in this world, all the way to an unthinkable $1.5 billion for a single vessel. And I say vessel because calling these things boats would be an insult. In this video, you'll discover 7 facts that will completely change the way you see the superyacht market. And I guarantee that at least one of them will make you pause the video or turn to someone nearby and say, "You've got to be kidding." But before we begin, I need a favor from you. If you enjoy content like this, content that goes deep into subjects most people never have access to, hit the like button right now. That simple gesture helps the channel grow enormously and keeps this kind of quality content coming. And tell me in the comments, what other curiosity from the billionaire world do you want us to explore? Yachts, private islands, art collections, insane investments? Write it below, because I read every single comment, and the next topics come straight from your suggestions. Deal? Now then, let's step into this world. Fact 1. $2 million is the entry ticket, and it's enough to ruin you. There's a dangerous illusion circulating among people who start researching superyachts for the first time. They look at the magic number of $2 million and think, well, 2 million seems manageable. I know people who have 2 million. Wrong. Dangerously wrong. $2 million buys you an entry-level superyacht, typically around 78 to 98 feet in length, 3 to 4 cabins, a crew of 4 to 6, and equipment that's already a few years behind the technological frontier. Does it feel like luxury? It does, but it's the equivalent of buying an apartment in downtown São Paulo and thinking you've now broken into the high-end real estate world. Yet the problem isn't the purchase. The problem is what comes after the purchase. The industry has a rule that insiders use as a warning for newcomers. The annual operating cost of a superyacht is equivalent to at least 10% of its purchase price. You bought a $2 million yacht? Prepare to spend $200,000 a year just to keep it in existence. And that doesn't include actually using the boat. That's just to keep it floating and functional. Those $200,000 cover the captain's salary, which on luxury vessels can reach $8,000 a month, the rest of the crew's wages, preventive engine maintenance, international maritime insurance, marina fees around the world, the mandatory annual survey that can cost between $20,000 and $50,000 depending on the vessel's flag, and finally, fuel. Fuel. But a 30-meter superyacht with modern diesel engines consumes an average of 500 to 700 liters of fuel per hour at cruising speed. On a 4-hour trip from Miami to Nassau in the Bahamas, that boat will burn the equivalent of more than 2,000 liters of marine diesel every single trip. And that's why the first victim of superyachts is rarely the person who can't afford to buy one. It's almost always the person who can afford to buy one, but didn't do the math on what comes next. Fact 2. The $10 to $80 million market. The millionaires' playground. If the $2 million range is the entry door, the $10 to $80 million range is where the game starts to get genuinely interesting. This is where high-performance millionaires play. Startup founders who just completed a billion-dollar exit. Executives with annual bonuses in the 8-figure range. And heirs to families that have accumulated wealth across generations. In this range, you start seeing vessels between 115 and nearly 200 feet in length. Helipads, swim platforms that transform into beach clubs at the stern, gyroscopic stabilization systems that virtually eliminate the rolling of the sea, and interiors designed by architects who normally charge to design 5-star hotels in Dubai. But there's a detail that few people know. One that yacht brokers love to bury deep in the contract. The depreciation of a super yacht in this range is devastating. A $40 million yacht fresh off the shipyard loses between 8 and 12% of its value in the first year alone. That's between $3 and $5 million evaporating while you're still learning the names of the buttons on the control panel. In 5 years, that same yacht that cost $40 million is probably worth between $18 and $25 million, depending on maintenance history, engine hours, and the reputation of the shipyard that built it. Sounds bad? To most people, it does. To the owners of these yachts, it doesn't. Because they're not buying an asset. They're buying an experience. They're buying the freedom to wake up in Mykonos, have lunch in Santorini, and dine in Bodrum, all in the same day, with no airport, no hotel, no lines. They're not buying a boat, they're buying time. And as we already know on this channel, time is the only asset that billionaires consider truly scarce. Fact 3. The $100 million line, where billionaires start to feel at home. Here the story changes tone entirely. When you cross the $100 million line in the superyacht market, you're not simply buying a bigger boat. You're entering a completely different category of nautical existence. Above 100 million, and the vessels are rarely called yachts by their owners. They call them private expedition ships, oceanic platforms, or simply by the proper names they've chosen. Names usually loaded with personal, family, or strategically anonymous meaning. In this range, you start to see personal submersibles. That's right. There are super yachts equipped with mini submarines that allow the owner to descend up to 650 feet to explore coral reefs and historic shipwrecks. So the submersible alone can cost between $3 and $12 million and is housed in a dedicated compartment at the yacht's stern. Helicopters on board. Not just a helipad, but a pressurized, climate-controlled hangar to store the owner's helicopter. Some yachts have space for 2. Desalination systems. Instead of relying on marinas for fresh water, super yachts in the 100 million and above category typically produce their own water, converting seawater into high-quality drinking water on board. Permanent crew of 20 to 50 people. Executive chefs trained at schools like Le Cordon Bleu. Doctors or paramedics on call 24 hours a day. Professional divers. A sommelier. A personal trainer. A massage therapist. The crew of a high-end super yacht is literally a 5-star hotel that floats. And do you know the most fascinating part of all this? The majority of these 100 million-plus vessels spend fewer than 60 days per year with their owners on board. The rest of the time, they sail for maintenance or are available for charter, private rental to other ultra-wealthy individuals, charging between $400,000 and $2 million per week, depending on the vessel and the season. In other words, the yacht isn't just a luxury item. For many owners, it's also a business. Fact 4. The hidden cost. No seller tells you the midlife refit. Here is one of the best-kept secrets in the luxury nautical industry and one of the most expensive. Every superyacht past a certain age, typically between 8 and 15 years of use, must undergo a comprehensive overhaul known in the market as a refit or midlife refit. And the numbers involved are enough to make anyone reconsider the purchase. And the midlife refit of a $50 million superyacht can cost between $10 and $25 million. And we're not talking about cosmetic work, replacing sofa fabric or repainting the cabin walls. We're talking about complete replacement of the main engines, updating all electronic navigation systems which become completely obsolete in 10 years, structural treatment of the hull, which suffers constant corrosion from salt water, recertification of all safety systems in accordance with constantly updated international regulations, reprogramming of all automated control systems for stability, temperature, and lighting. And finally, a complete interior redesign. Because a yacht decorated in the 2010s looks dated by 2025 standards. There's a case that became famous in industry circles. The owner of a 45-meter superyacht, originally purchased for $38 million, discovered during a routine survey that the hull had developed structural microcracks caused by decades of navigating North Atlantic waters. The repair estimate? $18 million, more than half the boat's original value. And if he didn't do the repair, the yacht would lose its navigation certification and become literally illegal to operate in any sea. He did the repair, and 2 years later, he sold the yacht at 30% below market because buyers already knew about the structural history and priced in the risk. The lesson the industry tries not to publicize is simple. Buying the yacht is the easiest part of the entire equation. The hard part is surviving the cost of owning it over the years. Fact 5. The $500 million club. When money no longer makes sense, there is a point in the superyacht market where the numbers begin to resemble science fiction. A point where you read a yacht's price tag and genuinely cannot process what you're seeing. Welcome to the $500 million club. At this level, we're no longer talking about superyachts in the conventional sense. We're talking about mega-yachts, giga-yachts, vessels that rival warships in size and technical complexity. There is a mega-yacht built in 2013 that cost approximately $600 million to construct. To give you a sense of scale, it is larger than 2 football fields placed side by side. It accommodates a permanent crew of 60 people, has 4 independent power generators, a propulsion system capable of reaching 31 knots, nearly 58 kilometers per hour, something utterly absurd for a vessel of that size, and a temperature control system that maintains the interior between 64 and 75 degrees Fahrenheit, even when the outside temperature reaches 117 degrees in the Persian Gulf. The estimated annual operating cost of this vessel? Somewhere between $60 and $80 million per year. Just to exist. But there's an even more fascinating detail about mega-yachts in this range that the media almost never explores: the waiting list. The world's leading shipyards capable of building vessels above 100 meters, such as Lürssen in Germany, Feedship in the Netherlands, and Oceanco also in the Netherlands, have waiting lists ranging from 3 to 7 years. This means that if you wake up tomorrow with $1 billion available and want to commission the world's largest private yacht, you'll need to wait until 2032 to see it completed. And having the money isn't enough. These shipyards interview clients. They verify the reputation of the fortune. They assess whether the project is technically viable. and they reserve the right to refuse orders they consider problematic for their brand image. Literally, money is not sufficient. You need to be accepted by the shipyard before you're allowed to spend $500 million with them. And if that doesn't define what absolute exclusivity means, I don't know what does. Fact 6. The secret market. How the ultra-rich buy and sell without leaving a trace. Have you ever tried Googling "buy a super yacht"? You'll find sites like Yacht World, Boat International, and Fraser Yachts, with listings ranging from $2 to $100 million that seem reasonably public and accessible. But those sites represent only the visible tip of the iceberg. At the transactions that truly move the market, sales above $50 million, custom mega yacht commissions, the transfer of iconic vessels between billionaire families, those transactions never appear on any website. They happen in discreet phone calls, at private dinners in Monte Carlo, during the Monaco Yacht Show, which takes place every September and is the world's largest luxury nautical event, in confidential presentations at wealth management offices in Geneva, London, and Singapore. The high-end superyacht brokers, firms such as Burgess Yachts, Camper and Nicholson's, and Y.co, function less like real estate agents and more like private bankers of the nautical world. They don't have listings in the traditional sense. They have relationships. A senior broker at one of these firms may have access to information about 10 or 15 available yachts that aren't listed anywhere publicly. Owners who want to sell with absolute discretion. Families that need to liquidate assets for succession reasons. Business people who have entered litigation and need to dispose of assets before they appear in public records. And on the buyer's side, the same level of secrecy. Hundreds of superyachts worldwide have their real owners completely unknown to the general public. The yacht is registered in the name of a Delaware LLC, controlled by a Cayman Islands trust, managed by a Swiss law firm which answers to an investment fund in Luxembourg. 5 layers of anonymity. And at no point does the real name of the billionaire who wakes up every morning looking out at the Mediterranean ever appear. Fact 7. $1.5 billion. The project that redefined what's possible in a yacht. And we arrive at the number that gave this video its title. The number that, when I first saw it, I had to reread 3 times to make sure I wasn't misplacing the decimal point. $1.5 billion. That is the estimated cost of the most ambitious project ever conceived in the private yacht market. A project that, when completed, will technically be the most expensive private vessel ever built in the history of humanity. I'm referring to the History Supreme, which for many years circulated as the most expensive yacht ever built, valued at $4.5 billion according to some sources, though that figure is disputed by industry analysts. But I'm also referring to more recent, verifiable projects that have crossed the $1 billion barrier. So, what makes a yacht cost $1 billion? Let me walk you through the math. You start with a high-performance steel hull and aluminum superstructure to reduce weight. That's approximately 500 feet in length. The hull construction process alone takes 2 years and costs between $100 and $150 million. And then come the next-generation propulsion systems, diesel-electric turbines with energy recovery systems, complemented by state-of-the-art solar panels and battery storage technology for silent operation in environmentally protected areas. Cost: between $80 and $120 million. The interior is where things get truly absurd. But imagine hiring the world's best interior architecture studio, the kind that normally signs hotels charging $15,000 a night, and giving them carte blanche with a $300 million budget and the instruction to create something never before seen anywhere in the world. In that reality, you end up with suites featuring entire walls of saltwater aquariums. living vertical gardens grown hydroponically, producing fresh herbs for the onboard restaurant, a spa that rivals the finest land-based spas on the planet, a cinema with acoustics designed by the same engineer who works in the recording studios of the world's greatest artists, security systems that would make anyone feel protected, ballistic armor in the main cabins, countermeasures, drone detection systems, and a situation room that allows the owner to monitor threats within a 30-mile radius around the yacht, 24 hours a day. And after all of that is assembled and operational, you hire a permanent crew of 80 to 100 people, each specialized, trained, uniformed, with salaries and benefits totaling between $10 and $15 million per year in payroll alone. And the total annual operating cost for this vessel? Industry estimates point to somewhere between $80 and $120 million per year. Just to exist, just to float, just to be available when the owner wishes. And to put that in perspective, there are countries around the entire world whose annual GDP is lower than the operating cost of this yacht. You could literally sustain the entire economy of a small nation with the money spent simply keeping this vessel operational. And even so, there is a list of people in the world who can pay that price and would still find the cost negligible. Because for someone with a net worth of $50, $80, or $100 billion, spending $120 million a year on a yacht is proportionally similar to you or I spending a few $100s on a hobby we love. The scale is incomprehensible. The zeros are incomprehensible. And yet, this world exists. These yachts exist. These people exist. What do these 7 facts teach us about real wealth? After everything we've seen today, I want to leave you with one reflection. And these 7 facts about the superyacht market aren't just curiosities about expensive boats. They are a window into understanding how extreme wealth operates in a way completely different from what most of us were taught to imagine. The ultra-rich don't buy superyachts in spite of the absurd costs. They buy them because the costs are absurd. The cost is part of the value. The inaccessibility is part of the product. Exclusivity is not a bonus. It's the essence. A $500 million superyacht is not valuable because it's beautiful or technologically advanced, although it is both. It's valuable because almost no one on the planet can have one. And the few who can are part of a club so exclusive it has no name, no headquarters, no membership list. It's invisible luxury, silent power, the conquest that needs no audience. And perhaps the most unbelievable fact of all isn't any of the 7 I listed today. Sir, perhaps it's this one. While you were watching this video, somewhere in the world, someone just ordered a $200 million yacht the same way you would buy a new pair of sneakers online, with the same naturalness, with the same absence of hesitation. That is the world that exists beyond the boundaries of what most of us can imagine. So, which of these facts shocked you the most? Drop the number of the fact that surprised you the most in the comments. And since you made it all the way here, that means you're exactly the kind of person who builds this channel. Hit the like, subscribe if you haven't already, and tell me in the comments which world you want to explore next week. Yachts? Private islands? Billion-dollar art collections? Floating mansions? You choose. I dive deep and bring it all back to you. See you next time.